Season 18, serial number 5, story number 113 overall. It is, of course, Warriors Gate. Warriors being the plural, and possessive plural, warriors, possibly after the S.
I would say that they're not the warrior cats, but we'll get to that.
Written by Steve Gallagher, directed by Paul Joyce, produced by JNT. What happens in Warriors Gate, dear?
First I have to ask if you know what the fuck I'm talking about when I say the warrior cats.
Vaguely. It strikes a memory, but it's like, whenever I hear warrior cats, I'm like, that sounds like something that I remember, but I've intentionally forgotten because I hated it.
Okay, it's a book literally written, and the main protagonist is a cat, and there's other cats, and they are fighting.
I do remember this.
Clans.
I fucking hated it.
I loved it! Fuck you! I reread it as an adult, too. How dare you. Anyway, I'm hurt. I'm emotionally hurt. There's some science stuff going on. A room full of very old men that breathe and think, and this room is full of old men needing to live.
Very old men.
Everything is perfectly fine. Well, they look like old men. Perfectly fine here, but outside the room there's a man on the PA doing a countdown. There's also a graffiti on the wall, and that's weird, and they just kind of look around the entire ship before we see some men in orange jumpsuits staring up at the ceiling. And then there's more men above them, and one of them is a lion in a chair, and the captain basically...
Basically. Sean Connery makes an appearance.
The captain...
It's Highlander now.
Basically yells, hit it, but someone can't visualize it, so jump even though we can't. So we hit the ignition, and the crew goes, yay, and the lion doesn't want to tell them where he's going, I guess. And they're also borderline killing the dude, so that's fun. And they're headed for a time right, and then the camera goes, whoa. And the computers slow down and explode as well, and it looks like everyone is gone, but they're not gone. They're just not in the shot. And the lion dude is thinking about the TARDIS for a little bit. Meanwhile, the TARDIS is having problems, and Ramon and the Doctor are fighting about it, and they have no control whatsoever and are just adrift. And they're like, wait, what if that's how we leave? And the people on the ship aren't actually gone. The lion is in trouble because they're back where they started, and the ship crew are like, something warp drive. Something toss a coin, to which Math Kid, who is still here, flips a coin, and they talk about Chinese philosophy. Lion is not giving them brain pictures, and Captain is angry and basically happy to get the lion killed to get what he wants. But instead, two men take him away, chained up, to go down to get medical treatment. Yes?
Sorry, I just realized you said, don't worry. I was talking about Chinese philosophy. It's like, it was a little bit more than, like, to call it just Chinese philosophy kind of does it a disservice.
There was so much shit to it that my brain just went, and I went, alright, cool, that's a thing. Anyway, the lion dude's actually awake, and while walking down to get medical attention, he attacks his guards, and, well, he pushes them over, really. And then the lion has met up with a jumpsuit and just kind of stares him down, and he's like, I'm watching you, and then he walks away into a door. And it's kind of weird, because it's a big old white room. And the jumpsuit calls it in,
big
and they're like,
penis.
What is going on? Back at the TARDIS, they're trying to figure out why we wanted to push a self-destruct button, I guess. And Romana's like, I do not want to go to Gallifrey. Also, what about Math Kid? Aren't we taking him away from his universe? Is that okay? Math Kid decides to flip a coin and push a button. And because of it, we get less wiggly. But then, meanwhile, the lion is running kind of through the white room, kind of. But then also it's time. Anyway, the TARDIS is baby fucked and everyone falls to the ground and the doors open and the console also explodes. And then some time wind and K9 just hotboxes up.
The time winds touch the Doctor's hand, and he goes, ow, and then hides behind K9, who also gets destroyed by the time
Destroyed?
winds.
He was having a fucking dank-ass time. I don't know about you.
He was having a dank-ass time, that is true.
That's true. The lion shows up like fucking Jesus, because it's very Jesus-y, and then the captain is still fucking pissy, and just being a right cunt, and then now they're able to sort of see the
All right,
TARDIS.
cunt.
And the TARDIS, I guess, is also landing, but while everyone else is okay, the Lion is out of phase with time, I guess. And the captain basically goes, we need to get a Lion out of storage. Don't worry, if they die, we gotta go. And we're gonna do that and repair the ship, because this is the only thing we can do. The two gay repairmen, who are technically just me and Gam, go to get something out of storage. The Lion dude is coming back into phase, sort of, but not really. And then they're also out of phase to him, so it's not like they can hold a conversation. But he also says, hey, don't listen to anyone that comes through this door or meets you. I'm from the past and the future. Yeah. And then he leaves. And then we check some coordinates, and the doctor's like, we're at like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. What the fuck? And the doctor wants to follow the Lion Man. And Romana is told to think about the 0 coordinates, and Math is like, what? And we talk about how this might be the intersection of, in space and E space, I think?
Yep.
Okay.
E space is where they are, N space is where we come from.
I don't even know if that's a real thing, but sure. And yeah, so Romana's yet again repairing K9 for like the 8th time, and Mathk is excited about traveling with them both, and Romana's like, I might leave, lol. And he's like, what? And K9 is alive, but he's and is okay, kind of, but also there's humans coming. Cut the 3 humans coming towards the TARDIS through the white area room thing. And Math is staring at the approaching men, and K9 is dead again. And the humans have guns. And the Lion has reached a door, and he goes through that door, and the doctor is following him inside. And inside is an entire fucking castle, covered in cobwebs and shit, and some skeletons. And a fake mirror door, maybe? I don't know. We'll figure that out later. The shipmen are like, what the fuck is this blue box in this white room? Okay, let's bust this fucking thing open. This is the only viable plan. And the doctor's like, wow, I am not a Leo, but if I said this place was looking good, I'd be lying. And then he, of course, touches all the armor, which then comes alive, and god damn it, he touches all the things that gets him killed.
Do you want to say that astrology pun again, dear? That's slower this time.
The doctor is like, wow, I'm not a Leo, but if I said this place was looking good, I'd be a lion.
So, for anyone who remembers the 80s, even vaguely, one glance at Warrior's Gate is enough to fix the style. It looks like a pop video. Kind of specifically like a new romantic video. The banquet hall full of candles, cobwebs, and robot suits of armor gives you the feeling that it's just waiting for sort of new romantic fuck boy to come through with his puffed up hair and way too much eyeliner and puffy shirt. All that sort of shit. The Time Wind special effect is so familiar that you can imagine it accompanying anything that would have been at the top of the charts around this time.
Mm-hmm.
The lion-faced Tharals preempt Madonna's Like a Virgin by some years, and much of the story takes place in a void, a favorite venue for pop music in the days when directors realized they could make rock stars look far more interesting by putting them in the middle of nowhere and making the sky turn day glow. And yet, Warrior's Gate was made in 1980. If it had been made in 1982, then it would have looked like an obvious attempt to be hip. But this is at the stage where the worst excesses of video mainly involved large, fuzzy patches of color, rather than grandiose historical romances. It'd be nice to imagine that someone in the music business watched this story and got ideas, but it's far more likely that Doctor Who was just being fashion conscious before, like far more fashion conscious. Fashion
both.
Conscious.
Both, honestly, they're pretty fascist.
Than it had been since the days of Joe Grant. Even before the new romantic movement rediscovered the joys of period costume, just as the BBC was forgetting them, because remember around this time they kind of stopped doing period dramas.
Mm-hmm.
It was fairly obvious that the hip kids were going to turn into a bunch of mincing fops before long. Punk rock, a trend which sadly never really had a direct input on Doctor Who, apart from the Doctor occasionally commenting about like people wearing safety pins in an episode here there, was about kinky fashion sense as much as anything. And however much its proponents may have wanted it to look like snarling urban rebels, they were drama queens at heart. But you could see where the culture was going, and many of the design flourishes in Warriors Gate can be seen as extensions of the drama-bound pop culture of the 70s. It may look proto-goth to us now, but the Thariel Castle is really just the sort of thing you'd get if you gave Alice Cooper enough money for a big stage set and made him promise not to use decapitation effects. In fact, there are moments where the whole setup kind of looks like it could have been designed for the Muppet Show. And you can really see it, especially the banquet hall looks like it could have been designed for the Muppet Hall. Like, absolutely can see Muppets run through there.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than a dash of Couteau's La Belle et la Belle, Beauty and the Beast. Admittedly, the 1946 film was so influential in artistic circles that you can find bits and pieces of it wherever you look. But the Thariel look is pretty fucking blatant. It's pretty big. Then there's sort of the supporting cast of the below stairs crew on Rulvik's ship. The shift focus from big characters to spearholders had become a trend in the debunking of cliched situations. The famous example, of course, being Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which is just the story of Hamlet from the point of view of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who spend a lot of the time tossing coins, which, pretty obvious what the relation is to this one. It's the characters that Deer says are just Deer and I.
Mm-hmm.
The point here is that Rulvik's crew can't see how big a story they're in, nor that it isn't about them. Also, the fact that, yes, Warriors Gate does have a plot. It was a replacement for 2 separate scripts that were written and then scrapped. It was written as a backup just in case one didn't go through. Steve Gallagher hadn't really written for proper TV in the time. He was part of a sort of younger movement of sci-fi, sort of literary, sardonic, and down-to-earth, where they dealt with big ideas. They did so in characteristic style, looking at the way people would cheapen and exploit the marvelous, and the way these things connected to deeper ancient threads in our culture. It's a bit weird at that sort of moment. We have these sorts of things of approaches like taking archetypal objects, materializing out of the collective unconscious, sort of manifesting in the way that the writer has like this big dismay about how commercialism taints the process of creativity, which kind of makes sense. They weren't really going to take kindly to the sort of sci-fi escapism being peddled in theaters. Gallagher's knowledge of commercial radio, which he had written before, and television gave him a sort of grandstand view of how something potentially amazing is turned into a product by people doing it to just pay the bills. So it's like, this is written from someone of the perspective of like, oh, commercialism ruins art. We need, like, if it's written for a profit, then it's not written for art reasons at all. It's only for the profits. It's all about the money. Money taints everything. A rather extreme view. But the slavery of the Thariels is historically suggestive, but this isn't a piece about the slave trade, imperialism, or man's inhumanity to man. Slavery is just kind of a big dramatic concept that sci-fi likes to play with all the time. So many other ideas are touched on here, so that, like, it's kind of hard to talk about all the things that are being touched on here, because there's a shit ton. Alien has been mentioned. It's worth pointing out that the script is clearly being written by someone with a post-60s view of literature, writing for the series after the 70s. Robert Holmes drew on the 50s sort of topical satire school of sci-fi. Writing in the 80s, though, Gallagher draws on the doubt and uncertainty school of sci-fi. Sort of instead of using science fiction to talk about topical things and make ironic sort of connections here and there as an allegory, it's more using science fiction to cast doubt and uncertainty on the day's topics of the day. This is a universe of alternate states of mind, exotic parallel thought systems, shifting certainties, and crippling neuroses. Where time's unreliable and the I Ching is as useful as a spaceship. In a way. It's a lot trippier than anything in Doctor Who since 1969, to say the least. The episode does get pretty trippy. There's also a lot of mentions to Alice in Wonderland. The Doctor overtly mentions the Cheshire Cat, and there was a cut scene in which he directly quotes the White Queen, saying it's a poor sort of memory that only works backwards, and it's worth remembering that there's a lot of the Tower of Physics School of Pot Boiler Pop Science that's been in the show, as well as all the other, famous cats that have been chosen for choosing reality states. Cough, cough, Schrödinger. So it's like, tossing a coin, I Ching, cats. This has got all of it. It's a veritable pot of ideas, concepts, and boy, did it cause the director and producer a lot of strife. What happens in part 2?
Can I say, so I don't know if you've seen it yet, or if it's just America release. There's a documentary on Netflix right now that's about the Woodstock 99.
No, I've seen trailers for it, and I've been interested. It's on my list to watch sometime.
It's only like 3 episodes, so it's pretty short, and it's pretty good of a watch, right? And literally what it boiled down to was capitalism literally destroyed Woodstock and made them riot. But it's like a lot more, it's more than that. But it does boil down to, like, capitalist people fucking making Woodstock for profit ruined Woodstock. And it's just kind of interesting that we're watching this right after I watched that. Just
is a bit of an odd connection.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the action. By the way, we swing at the Doctor, and he runs away and pretends to be some armor, but it doesn't work. So we're having an axe fight. And then Romana says technology shit, and we should repair K9. But also, I don't trust humans. And Romana's like, I'm gonna go outside and talk to him. And then maybe Math Kid will come out, but only if I don't make this signal where, like, I kind of do a stretchy thing. And she's like, I really want to know about your mass detector, boys. And they're like, hi, we're traders. And then she asks if she's seen a lion, and she's like, vision is subjective. Science, science, science. Wait, why don't you have a lion that tells you where you go? Also, wait, where did our lion go? And she talks about warp drives, and the captain's like, what? You don't need a lion? What the fuck? And Romana also basically tells him Math to stay in the TARDIS with the signal she created, and she's like, I'm gonna go to your ship. And they're like, okay. And the captain's like, I think we could use her. And Math just kind of notices this, because he peeks his head out anyway, it's fine. More machine armor boys are attacking the Doctor. Math asks, again, about K9 saying danger, and then K9 just kind of goes backwards out the door, and together, they're going out the door. Romana has gotten to their ship and keeps asking more questions, and the Doctor is fine because both robots knocked each other out, and Captain basically drags Romana where he wants her to go, and shows her all the things he wants her to see. K9 is having a fuck ton of trouble, by the way. Math and him are stuck in the White Room world and aren't sure where they are. Romana is being shown the entire bridge of the ship, and the crew is like, we're fine. But Romana's apparently going to be the new navigator, and she's shoved into the lion chair against her will. But everything is fine, but if Romana isn't time sensitive, she's just gonna die. That's great. Math Kid takes K9's ear and walks away for a bit, which helps him triangulate. And then the captain is like, well, fuck, the chair didn't really work, so let's pull something out of storage. Meanwhile, Romana is having a fucking seizure out of pain, and that's fun. She's basically imagining that place where the Doctor went for whatever reason, and the captain's a cunt, and the Doctor is meanwhile messing with robot brains.
And the captain's a cunt.
Yeah. There's not much else to say about him. He's a cunt. Anyway, but also, no Tharl will outlive the day of the feast, I guess, and the ship crew puts on some vests, some safety vests. They're blue, but they're not, or safety orange. They're already wearing safety orange. They don't need more. Anyway, they head out to find that door, and Gam and I have to go get some shit out of storage and stay behind. And the robots basically go, we exist to kill, so, like, what the fuck? We were sent to deal with slavers. And there's a gateway also, and K9 shows up, and so now we have an alternate energy source to use for the robots. Oh, all those old men are lion people, by the way, so I fucked that up. And we flip a coin to make a choice for a bit, on multiple levels, and then the crew are gonna leave the lion body, but then they decide not to, and then they flip a fucking switch and electrocute it repeatedly, and it's screaming, and it's K9 is being used to jumpstart one of the robots, by the way, even though his energy is critical. And the larger ship crew is now at the door, and they're like, oh, but what if we listen? And the Doctor's still trying to figure out what's going on, talks about slaves, and then how there are also 3 gateways, and all of them are one.
You
But I
just
guess,
talk about slaves.
and depends, am I on this podcast or am I not? Because we talk about them quite a bit. Anyway, the captain is like, hey, make the robot say the thing again. And he's like, no. And the Gundams were built for war, but then oops, the other robot beheaded the first one and then walked into a mirror. Meanwhile, the lion that was electrocuted is awake and hi Evie, moving around. Hi cat.
Yeah, that's right. Stinky's also fucking trying to eat my microphone right now.
Fun. The Doctor's like, I know. The captain is like, the Doctor knows the mirror, obviously, so let's go get him. And then he almost escapes too, but then he's caught at gunpoint and he just backs up into the mirror and they're like, what? And K9 cannot go through the mirror, so that's weird. Meanwhile, Lion is skulking around the ship, ready to fucking kill, and also Romana is attempting to escape her chair. And then the Lion has found Romana, and she is scared and does a scream. Ah! Ah! Something like that.
Oh woo. She goes, ah woo.
Oh.
How woo.
Yep.
How woo.
How woo.
So, Christopher Bidmead, the script director, and director Paul Joyce found the practicalities of filming what Gallagher had written to be incredibly daunting, so various rewrites were requested. Eventually, the director and script editor pieced together their own script using Bidmead's new toy, a computer called the Vector Graphic MZ. Sound familiar, dear?
No.
MZ?
No.
Joyce had various advanced ideas as to how the story should be realized, but time and logistics were against him. Because of the troubles involved in bringing Warriors Gate to the screen, all sorts of rumors have abound. Beginning with the false premise that Joyce quit during the shooting. In these versions, the stand-in director is production assistant and future director Graham Harper. Sometimes even it's JNT. Harper admits that various unforeseen snags needed rethinks on the studio floor, but credits the most experienced person on set, Tom Baker, with thinking up ingenious and practical solutions to many of them. But a big problem came when Joyce proposed using the studio construction as part of the set for the privateer ship. The head of lighting, John Dixon, for whom Joyce had been arguing throughout the whole production, now stopped the filming when one of the lights appeared in the shot. Dixon's main worry was the safety of the scaffolding of the upper section of the ship, and he dragged the production further behind schedule by checking it over for half an hour. John Nathan Turner pondered sacking Joyce, but as Joyce had a better idea of the script than anyone else in the production, and the cast were behind him, the production just sort of limped on. And because Paul Joyce's plan for the story involved references to many classic films, he arranged showings of the following films. Last year at Marienbad, a time slip or false memory syndrome style movie, in a chateau resort in a stark monochrome with a small repetitive details becoming increasingly intense. Orphée, in which Orpheus goes through a mirror and is buffeted by winds which don't affect his guide. Cryptic messages and lots of simple tricks like shooting things backwards, making the dream world coherent, if not comprehensible. Also admitting that Beauty and the Beast was a massive influence as well. Kiss Me Deadly, a late film noir with car boots containing stolen atomic substances, lots of black-white screens as people are vaporized, and severe black and white photography. Dark Star, the John Carpenter film. Stoner spacemen blow up unstable planets, but as a day job. They wear rompers and hippie beards, and nothing works properly on their ship, and their bombs are cleverer than they are. However, after this, though, Joyce delayed blocking out the shooting schedule and camera positions. So Graham Harper had to contact the producer with his concerns of the work being held up. Bidmead's computer, the MZ, became the name of the Deus Ex Machina, allowing the Doctor to escape in episode 4. And Gallagher asked about these changes by phone. Mm-hmm. He found himself recognizing less and less of his story. One idea Joyce thought of until the last minute was that the passage through the mirrors should have a howl round effect, like the original title sequence of the show, to prevent it looking like some cheesy CSO shot. In the end, they went with some cheesy CSO shot, unfortunately.
No.
The rewrites... Yeah, I know, right? The rewrites didn't stop when it was in the can. The ending was completely different. The ending was kind of rushed and scheduled differently. We'll talk more about it when we get to it, because I don't want to talk too much about it. But it's unclear whether the director or John Nathan Turner authorized the version that we saw, because it's kind of odd. Gallagher tried to reinstate his version of the story in the novelization. He thanked the production team for the steep learning curve through which he'd been put through, and he got permission to overrun the page count of a normal Doctor Who book at the time. But John Nathan Turner complained about the deviation from the broadcast version at the 11th hour, meaning that Gallagher had to rewrite the whole book at 4 days' notice. And so it was published under the name of a character from An Alternative to Suicide, John Lydecker, because he just didn't want to be involved with it anymore. So, what happened in the next part?
Well, shockingly, even though it was obvious, the Lion lets Romana out of her shackles and saves her. The Doctor is here with Barak, the first Lion, and because Time Winds touched his hand on this side of the mirror, he is healed. Romana takes a chance to hide with the other Lion for a bit, and the captain is like, let's think about this before we decide to just fucking shoot it. And then they just fucking shoot the mirror. When the time is right, people can pass through the mirror, I guess. Oh, by the way, Math Kid is still hanging out with this coin in the white space. Don't worry about it. K9 is kicked by the captain. The K9 isn't gonna fucking take shit from He's powered. He has no power. The Lion is like, look, we can repair K9 if he stays on this side of the mirror, but if he leaves, he can't stay like that. Also, where is here? Fuck. This is a gateway to the whole universe for them, but the Lion leaves and the Doctor's like, fuck. And Romana is playing dead for the storage crew. And they say, well, let's plug her up again and almost kill her because we can. But she starts to talk and wants answers from the crew. And she's like, how many more lines do you have, bro? And the radio calls in and says, hey, lunchtime. Meanwhile, the ship and crew and K9 are wandering around white space again. The Doctor is crossing timeline shit and following around the Lion, I guess. It's kind of weird. It's black and white photos. I don't know. K9 is following around the crew. Mm-hmm. He really wants orders. Why is no one giving him orders? So they just throw K9 out back into the white space and say, fuck off. However, meanwhile, Math Kid, who's now stuck aboard... I need to type better. The ship and is trapped here now. Hold on. I'm just gonna send you this without changing the typos. Hold on.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, just...
However, meanwhile, Math Kid Ho's now snuck aboard.
The ship again in the...
Hey, let me read that with an English accent. However, meanwhile, Math Kid Ho's now snuck aboard.
Okay, well, listen. I just type without looking. Lion and the Doctor...
I can tell.
...are still looking around, and the Doctor's like, oh, a window. Listen, I could do a spell check on my Google Docs, but I don't feel like it. I think it's funnier.
Weird that the Doctor said that.
What?
It's weird that the Doctor said that.
It is. Anyway, the Lion and the Doctor are looking around. The Doctor's like, ooh, a window. But it's too dirty to look out, and then the Lion's gone. Again, the storage crew mentions that Romana got away, and there's a Lion roaming about somewhere, and so they just drag a giant thing somewhere that's covered in a sheet. Math Kid is hiding in it, of course, and the ship is hanging out. And we just kind of see that the ship is right next to the castle doors and the TARDIS? That's weird. The storage crew is dragging the thing into a room, and then Math Kid and Romana pop out, and they're like, hee. And Romana wants to be on the inside of the ship, though. Also, she's seen the Doctor, but only because of her brain machine thing. Someone walks by, and they decide to go follow him back inside the ship, and in we go, unseen. And apparently there's actually warp damage on the ship, and the engines are all fucky-wucky. But the warp motors are like 3 times bigger than they need for the ship, and it's because the entire hull of the ship is made out of dwarf star, which is why they need the motors. Shocking. This isn't
Dwarf
relevant
star
until
ally.
later. K9 has found Romana and Math and is begging for orders, and they're like, shut up, K9, shut up, Grenade, shut up. And Romana is captured, and she screams at Math to go for the gateway. And a lion on board, who is horribly burned, saves Romana by killing her guard, and they touch hands gently and walk into something? It goes into the white area, and we're just like, okay, The crew is dragging the sheet-covered thing around the white space, and K9 and Math are on it, I think. And they're taking the sheet off, so that's not good. And the Doctor has, however, gone back in time to before the castle was all farked, and the lions are having a dinner party, and he has a chat with them. But then it's just Romana and her lion watching everyone come in and fuck shit up, and she's like, the Doctor's in trouble. They see Romana and her lion for a second, but then they head into the fucking mirror and walk through a photo. Meanwhile, the Doctor, after watching everybody wandering around and eating, and the crew are trying to figure out what to do in the weird castle, it's all fucked up, and the captain's very upset that everybody talked over him, so he pulls out a gun. And the lions, in their universe, are like, the universe is our garden, we do what we want, we eat what we want, blah-de-blah. We travel on the time winds,
Yum, yum, yum.
and we see one of them slap a human girl. And they're like, oh, you're the ones that actually enslaved people. And they're like, yeah. And then Romana's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's danger.
Dog.
And then we see all the robots in prime, pristine condition running in to kill all the lion people. And then the timelines merge, I guess. And the Doctor is now sitting at the table with the crew. So there's that.
Hello.
Hello.
And they've got a gun to his head, by the way.
Repeatedly.
So, originally, they were called the Tharks, and then it became Thars at John Nathan Turner's request, but then they were renamed Thals at Bid Mead's request, and then Ian Levine, good old Ian Levine, dipped his oar in again and pointed out that sounded exactly like Thals, the enemies of the Daleks. Perhaps embarrassed by this kind of basic error, Christopher Bidmead proposed Tharals instead. Which was a good idea, because calling him Thals would have been a pretty fucking bad idea. It was kind of clear during the rehearsals for this story that Tom Baker had had enough. He was ill, tired, bored, and frustrated. The new regime had stifled his input a bit, and the ratings confirmed his belief that the series was in decline. The press caught the mood and speculated on whether the series could even survive without him. Meanwhile, suggestions for possible replacements abounded. All sorts of people of the time. But also, Tom Baker and Lalla Ward announced their engagement soon after she left the series. Their marriage in the midst of this story's transmission was a complete fucking surprise to John Nathan Turner, but he still managed to milk it for publicity. Like, imagine working with these people, knowing that they're at each other's throats and fucking hate each other and can't even be in the same room with each other. And then the minute one of them leaves, they announce to the public that they're married, that they've gotten married. And it's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, we did that,
You fucking married each other?
Yo, we did that.
What do you...
Yo, we did that.
You fucking idiots.
Guys, make t-shirts. We can make money off them.
Make t-shirts. So that the Doctor's married her or something. I don't fucking care, just get us money. We need money, dear God, this is the 80s. Thatcher's been fucking ruining everything, buddy, and it's about to get worse.
I was about to say about to. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I was like, Thatcher's about to, and I'm like, wait a minute, she's been in power for a while. She's already been fucking things up for quite a bit.
Shocking.
Well, not too much. Not a long time, but you know.
It doesn't take a long time to fuck shit up. Anyway, go on.
Especially if you're a conservative.
Woo.
Anyway, according to Paul Joyce, who was completely unprepared for Tom Baker and Lalla Ward's feud, he basically was like, I don't think anyone could have written a scene that satisfied both of them at that point. They were both just incredibly pissed and just did not care about, like, they had completely stopped caring about the show and each other and just were really pissed with each other.
No.
Yeah, I know, right? It's completely fucking weird. So initially, the story was meant to be different, written by someone called Christopher Priest. The final chapter of the E-Space trilogy was going to be the Doctor and Romana have exited E-Space, and it was meant to be a political thriller that involved Gallifrey in some way or another. It would have dealt more directly with Romana's failure to return to the home planet after her temporary assignment to find the key to time. Although, after a considerable amount of time with the treatment, it was completely abandoned. Replaced by this one, that was originally called The Dream Time. Though basic elements of the story would remain, the final script was basically a completely different story. So that's why it's technically like 3 stories. But what happens in the final part, too?
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me keep talking. Deer is drinking right now during a podcast.
No,
Deer
I
is drinking
spilled
right now
water
during a
on me.
podcast.
I spilled water on me.
Deer is spilling water on themselves during a podcast. Deer is spilling water on
good.
themselves during a podcast.
Fucking Christ! The doctor.
Deer has spilled
the
water on
doctor.
themselves during
The
a podcast.
doctor. The doctor is like, this is all weird and alarming to
The
me.
doctor?
I guess. Because I'm at this table now and they have guns pointed at him. And the doctor's like, I know the way out for the lions only, but only for them. And the captain's a bitch and a cunt. And says, like, there's nothing beyond the mirrors for anyone else. And he's like, no, I don't believe that. And the doctor's like, I guess I'm gonna die because he won't say anything about the mirror. And then K9 is back, and he says there's a mass conversion that's happening. K9 is very scared about what's going on, and it's gonna fall apart, and Captain's like, lol, that's bullshit. The crew is very happy to listen to the doctor, and the captain is not, and they're like, we would need a huge mass to start it, like, I don't know, like a dwarf star. Oh, fuck.
Something made of dwarf star alloy.
And then the doctor's like, what the fuck? And then he understands instantly that they're slavers, and the dwarf star is the only thing that will hold the lions in. And the doctor's wondering what the fuck is going on now. And K9 is talking backwards. The distance between the ship and the TARDIS are getting shorter, and the crew's like, wait, no, he's right. If we get back to the TARDIS, I can prove it, but the doctor's just gonna get shot. But Barak is on the other side of the mirror, and he's like, I've abused my power, I get it. I'm gonna fix it, don't worry. But now all of them will be free. And the doctor's like, what about me? And then the math kid shows up, and he's like, I have the giant laser pointed at all of you. So nobody make a move. So now everyone has a very slow standoff while they back away to the door. They leave the castle, run for the TARDIS. The crew chases after them, and notice that the ship has moved even closer to where they are. So they're like, And the storage crew is like, wait, you know what? Captain's fucking crazy. Let's leave. And then, which is followed then by a giant explosion and nothing getting better. In the TARDIS, everything is wiggly again, and the other ships are moving and shaking, and everything's bad. And apparently they're going to take off and do what is known as a black blast to smash the mirror. Back blast to smash the mirror. And they could leave with all of this going on, but they don't want to leave with all the slaves on board that ship. And they're like, well, wait, there's a hole in that ship. We could go maybe short his ship out. And the doctor's like, okay, I'm going to go do it alone. And Ramona's like, nah, I'm coming. And then Math is like, I'm coming. And they're like, no, we're doing this alone. Stay here. And they're like, okay. Captain is at this point just going, hey, keep your eyes on the controls. Let's just do this. Okay. And the storage crew are back down at the lion holding cell and just moving them about. Storage crew brings a new lion to the revival, whatever. And then they go sip some coffee and they're like, man, I fucking hate this. I hate this. This all sucks. It's fucking bullshit. I fucking hate working here. God damn it.
It's awful.
It's awful. It's real bad. The lion bowered. The lion bodies aren't able to revive. And we've killed 3 of them, even though they are obviously breathing. And we just kind of yeet one off the table, which is pretty good. The captain then goes to head outside and a lion just walks inside the ship instead. And Romana is gonna stand guard outside the giant hole while the doctor heads into the hole to fuck around. And the doctor is stopped by the captain, who tells him, I'm not going to let you stop me. And because everything breaks eventually, right? Even those mirrors, ha ha ha. And then we choke the doctor with his own scarf while Romana climbs up, takes the manacles that the doctor was using, and shorts the cables to the ship, so they fucked. And the captain's upset about this and goes after the manacle/Romana. But then the doctor stands up and Birak is there and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. And they're like, oh, I see, we all need to do nothing. And then they hold hands and do nothing and they away. And the captain's fucking crazy. And he's like, you're a coward, they all run. Ha ha, I'm the right one. More lions are just goddamn dead. But then the burned lion from earlier comes in and knocks out the dude killing his friends. And he just helps all his friends come back to being awake. So they're all gonna be okay. And Romana doesn't want to come with the doctor randomly at the end of this episode. And she's like, no, I'm just gonna stay. And the lions are gonna take Romana because they need a Time Lord. And K9 is gonna go with her because if he's on the other side of the mirror or whatever, he'll be fixed. And then the doctor's like, this sucks, but okay. And then the TARDIS shoots out and the backblast happens. And it literally only breaks some rocks off the castle and the ship, of course, because duh. And Romana's like, oh, the TARDIS is gone. And look, K9, it's okay. And I think we can maybe talk to the doctor if we want. In the future, probably not ever going to happen. Romana is going to be the Lions' Time Lord, and they're going to save all the other enslaved lions on the other planets. And then we see that Math is talking about how the image of everything they saw is fading away, and the doctor's like, yeah, I guess. And Math is like, are we back in your universe? And the doctor's like, yeah, I guess. That's...
I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
I guess.
Gam, what do you
So
think
real
of this
quick-
episode? I'm curious.
Well, real quick, before I do say, I just want to say, Lala Ward was incredibly unhappy with Romana's leaving scene. She felt it was too rushed.
No shit.
J&T didn't want the series to turn into a soap opera. So he was like, this is like, I wasn't gonna make it like, I've gotta go, goodbye. It was just like, it's not a soap opera, it's not a show about that. But she was happy that she got an open-ended departure, which, fun fact, she returns from E-Space, in Extended Universe stuff, and becomes the Lord President of Gallifrey. So she does pretty well. Then the Time War happens, and, stuff happens. No spoilers. But yeah, Romana doesn't have a good time.
Yeah.
Same with the same was said of K9 with John Leeson. He also was similarly sort of confused. He was like, they stuck K9 behind a mirror and then forgot about him. That's what you do with the bloody phone bill.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit annoyed. Stephen Gallagher, because it was K9's final story, his local paper credited him as the man who killed K9.
Wow.
Which that's a bit of a bit of a statement. Personally, I want to love Warriors Gate. I really do. I want to love it. I only like it. I really want to love it if it got more abstract and it got more like focused less on the ship and the slavers and focused more on the abstract concepts and the time going back and forth. Like the whole sequence with the doctor sitting at the table with the Thyrals and then the attack happening and then time shifts again and the doctor's back with the people in the ship. I love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was more of that type of shit. Like a character's looking down at the table and it's filled with food. Now it's covered in cobwebs because we're going back and forth as well. But it focuses a little bit too much on the ship, in my opinion. So it's kind of, I only kind of just like it. I feel like it could have been better.
I gave it like a 2, because while there were parts that I liked about it, I fucking hated the last episode. Fucking hated the captain. I mean, you're supposed to hate the captain, but like, he just got exhausting to even be on screen, because I'm just like, what the fuck are you gonna say that's just gonna make me annoyed? Sort of thing. And, I don't know. Fucking, you and me storage dudes are like fine, but they also like don't do anything about it. It's just like, alright guys, sure.
Sorry.
Hmm?
Sorry, my computer just froze for a second.
Ah,
That's fine. But anyway, 2. That's not too bad. Get it? Too bad?
Wow.
So, we've exited EE space. We're back in N space.
Mhm.
Isn't that great? It's great. Romana's gone, K9's gone, but Adric's still here.
Math.
The 4th Doctor's with Adric now.
The 4th Doctor has math.
The next episode. The Blank of Traken.
Oh, God. Do I get a hint at all, or no?
A football position.
What?
That's your clue. A football position.
Wait, okay, hold on. Clarify. Soccer or American football?
I'm not saying soccer.
Okay.
Football. Proper football.
Okay, you have to understand that for me, football makes me say quarterback. So, like, I don't know any positions in soccer. / football, whatever. The goalie.
Close. Very, very, very close, actually.
Is it just goal? Is it just goal?
You're close. I'll give you 2 more guesses. I think a synonym for it.
What's this? I don't.
What is a goalie? What does goalie stand for?
They guard the goal.
No. What does the word stand for? Goalie is shorthand.
I don't know. Goalkeeper.
The Keeper of Traken!
Okay. Alright. Cool.
Up next, the Keeper of Traken. What is Traken? Who is the keeper? Why are they keeping Traken? Should they be keeping Traken? I don't know. Let's find out.
I'm out.
Anything else you want to add, dear? Oh, okay. Dear's out. Well, it's just me now. You want to watch Warriors Gate again?